So welcome everyone. This is a pretty big group, and I'd love, since most of us are getting to know each other for the first time, I want to provide just a brief opportunity for us to warm up our voices and just hear from everyone. So if we can pass it around the room and just share a word or a few words, and keep it kind of brief if you can, about how you're feeling, what's coming up for you. It's inspirations, even challenges, whatever it is that you want to share. And so I don't know if anybody wants to kick it off for us, and then go ahead and pass it along.
I'll start because I just put into the chat that it seems important to say where we're from. So I'm Jan, and I'm from the Upper Columbia River in British Columbia. And yeah, feeling excited to meet some of the people that I've known for a long time in Earth Regenerators yet again, and also meet all these new people that are activating their area and engaging with this work. So I will pass it over to Claire.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, so Salish Sea, known as Victoria, but the bioregion that I am working in is just 40 minutes from here, Cowichan. And I'm going to say it is so busy and sometimes overwhelming and very exciting. And I'm going to pass to somebody else who's in my bioregion, sort of, Megan.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Yes, so I'm Megan. I'm actually living here in downtown Vancouver, but I'm looking to support Claire in the Cowichan Valley and all the stuff that she's getting working there. So let's see, I'll pass it to RJ.
Good morning. Here in northeastern Pennsylvania, in the former coal regions and Lenape tribes who are coming back. And I'm just going to mention this morning. I'm rereading a novella that I wrote back in 2017 called Forest for the Trees. And it's like it's all coming true. It's a little bit science fiction, but I feel like we're in the right place, but it is a very interesting time. So I'll pass it on to Lisa.
Hi, I am from Carbondale, Colorado, which is between Denver and Grand Junction in the mountains, kind of close to Aspen. And we are just getting started with a bioregion here. I'm really excited about it and very grateful to be a part of this. And my partner that I'm working with here, I'm going to pass it to her, to Rita.
Rita, it looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. We can come back to you if that would give you time to sort out the audio. Happy to wait another moment too. Still not hearing you, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll come back to you. I think I read that on your lips. Eric, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Canadian, recently moved to Colorado, well, around a year and a half ago, from Prince Rupert, British Columbia. So howdy, BC residents. I'm living in West Glenwood Springs in the Roaring Fork watershed, which is a part of the Carbondale group set as well, with Lisa and Rita. I'm scanning quickly for anybody else. I'm just getting to learn everybody here. So I'm an entrepreneur. I've started two businesses. One is at the, I guess, precipice or starting line of manufacturing what I believe will be the world's first regenerative, holistic, modular housing system, which is built entirely to be off-grid and autonomous. The unique thing about the housing system is that it grows food for its inhabitants, it creates potable drinking water, and collects renewable energy through solar and aeroelastic flood or wind turbines. The other one is a real estate development company that will use those technologies to build regenerative and autonomous communities around the world. So my interest is in specifically a project in the Roaring Fork Valley. That's a 1,400 acre parcel of land where we're starting to wrap up the master concept planning for a 360 home development that is nature integrative and regenerative. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you to see what information I can glean from this conversation. I'll try Rita again. Rita, over to you.
Yeah, we're still not hearing you, Rita, unfortunately. I wonder if you could exit and come back. That might resolve it. Gail Burkett, you mind taking it from here and then passing it along?
I'm coming in after a rehearsal. A beautiful ceremony is happening on Saturday. And we just had a little playtime for ceremony planning. I am most comfortable listening. Help me pass it to Bennett Black, maybe? Have you shared?
Sure. Howdy, y'all. Coming at you from the Southern Rockies up here on the Taos Plateau. Just feeling good. Super windy these last few days, but yeah, just gearing up for the cold of the year, hunkering down, got a lot of books, so pretty stoked. Let's go, Bruce.
My name is Bruce Woodside. I'm currently living in the North Fork Valley, North Fork of the Gunnison, in that watershed. I'm a permaculture guy. I've got 10 acres. I'm trying to implement a permaculture design, and we're in the midst of building a hempcrete house up on this fallow field. So that's the first step for me, is harvesting rainwater and planting trees on this field around this house. And I guess I'll send it to Evelina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Evelina in Crawford on the Smith Fork of the Gunnison, a valley over from Bruce and others in Paonia. My partner and I founded an intentional community here in Crawford, and we have a demonstration and education site for regenerative living skills and permaculture skills here in Crawford. And yeah, I'm very grateful for this group to meet and support us. And hopefully we can support each other as well. Thanks. And I'll pass it on to Donna.
Hi. Yeah, it's great to be here already. I'm taking in the beautiful energy and vibes of everyone. My background was the US Navy and then a permaculture community for 15 years, and I'm in Paonia, and I'll pass it on to Lynn.
Lynn, are you able to unmute yourself or to give a check-in? Feel free if you're not able to do so in the chat, and maybe that could be the easiest route with Rita as well. We'll check in on her in a moment to see if her audio is working again or finally.
I think so.
There we go. We can hear you. Yeah. Please,
Okay.
Rita, over to you.
Good morning, everyone from Carbondale, across the street from Lisa, and good to see everyone on the Western Slope gathered here and connect with other folks. We're just in the baby steps of getting started to see if there's interest for a bioregion here in the Roaring Fork watershed, and looking forward to have Penny, Benji, and Joe back with us on the 10th here in Carbondale. So good to see everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. And we still haven't heard from a few people, and it might be easiest if we can see a show of hands as well. I know that Richard hasn't gone, Marissa, Chad, Penny, Meady, Scott. Richard, you want to take it from here and then pass it along?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Richard. I'm calling from the Middle River Thames region in the UK, about 30 miles to the west of London. I'm discovering and hoping to find other people in this area who are curious about bioregioning. I'm also part of the UK bioregional community of practice and the regenerative practitioner community, which is kicking off in the UK and inspired by all that's going on here. And the wonderful Miller is part of that community. So yeah, lovely to be here. And yeah, I will pass on to Midi.
Thanks, Richard. Good to see you again. Well, I'm Midi, and I'm in the Malibu Creek watershed on Chumash territories in the Santa Monica Mountains, just to the west of Los Angeles. And I guess I count as one of Benji's virtual friends, because although we've been in deep relationship what seems like a lifetime, maybe several lifetimes, we haven't met in this incarnation actually in the flesh. So I'm gearing up to do it. You guys in Colorado, I can feel your energy across from here in California. So I think I'm going to get sucked in the direction of Colorado before long, and it's just a matter of where do I land. So I'm going to pass to Scott. Scott, I have this sense that I've seen you in a Zoom room before, but I'm not quite sure where, and it's good to see you.
Well, you too, Midi. Could be. I've been in Zoom rooms before. I'm also on the western slope of Colorado in the North Fork of the Gunnison, just down the hill from Bruce and Donna and Marissa and company. Freshly inspired by Joe and Benji and Penny and their visit, and just sitting with the big vision. And I had a farm in Nova Scotia for a while. Am a dual citizen. Hello, fellow Canadians. And yeah, looking forward to getting back into some growing with Marissa and kind of her community garden vision. And my background is really in peacemaking, restorative justice, the interpersonal skills required, pro-social with a capital P. I've done the facilitator training, and pro-social with a lowercase p. So just really interested in that aspect of it. And I'll pass to Robin.
Robin, are you able to share with us? I see that you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything yet. Perhaps we'll move on to Chad. You haven't gone yet, have you?
No, I have not. Hi, everybody. I'm Chad. I am in Southeast Michigan, and it's great to see a lot of faces that I haven't seen before. So it's wonderful to make those connections. I've already heard of some projects and ideas that others in my vicinity would be interested in talking about. So also coming off the last call, some of us were with Joe and the conversation on connecting bioregions, and I was also encouraged to see a lot of discussion around the Great Lakes region. So I'm here and I'm thinking about how we might activate and catalyze across international boundaries, right? So I know Brian Pupa's in Toronto. I mean, here in the US, there are opportunities to think across borders. So something that's popped into my radar. And yeah, and I actually have to step off in a second, but I just wanted to be here for the intros and look forward to catching what conversation I can. So who else hasn't gone here yet? Marissa?
Thanks, Chad. I was actually just going to ask if you could shoot me your email, because I'm also working on a Great Lakes project.
Sure. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm also here in Paonia. I had the good fortune of inviting Joe and Penny and Benji out a few weeks ago, and I'm now trying to keep up with all the energy and momentum that's been created that you can feel all the way in California. Just like running with my arms. I guess you're going to hear from me in a bit. The only other thing I wanted to add was I also work with the Transition Network, Transition Towns. And we got a big presence in the UK as well as the Salish Sea and other areas. And I think there's a lot of overlap and synergy. And I'm going to mention that later as well. Thanks. Evelina, have you checked in? Okay, I'm not.
Elizabeth and Penny, I think.
Okay.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, great. Okay. Just neighbors with Evelina and Bruce and Donna, Lynn and Marissa here in Paonia on the western slope of the Rocky Mountains. I came here to create a food forest. So a lot of my intention has been to do that. And I've just got interested since Joe and Penny's visit in syntropic agroforestry. So kind of thinking about it on a more intense basis, using at the moment hugelkultur, going to be building terraces, I think, and just channeling the water to the places that I need. So I don't know who else is left. Benji, can you direct me there?
I think just Penny, and if I'm missing anybody else, I'd love to see a hand.
I know we didn't
Penny.
hear from Lynn, right?
Yeah, and Robin wrote in the chat there. She's in Santa Fe. And hi everybody. Wow, this is so exciting to see everybody here. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and this is where I was born. And my home base now is Barichara, Colombia. And I am just, Joe wanted me to say hello to everybody, and sorry he couldn't be here. And I'm helping, as you know, with traveling around to different bioregions now with Joe. So good to see you all, and I can't wait for today's session.
Okay, I think that does it, right? Are we missing anybody?
This is Lynn, and I'm sorry, I've had some problems getting things to work here for me. Could I go ahead and just check in?
That'd be great.
I'm also part of the group in the Paonia and North Fork watershed, and we've been working for the past 5 years to restore a piece of land and create a bird and pollinator sanctuary. Also working with restoring the soil, which is pretty junky, and ways to move water more efficiently with swales, etc. And I'm really excited to see so many people from all over the place involved in this, and look forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. And then we have Dan. I don't know if Dan is able to check in.
Yeah, I tried out. I don't know how my audio is. I'm not going to try my video. I'm afraid my connection's going to honk up. Can you guys hear me?
Sure can, Dan.
Oh man, I'm so relieved. Let me tell you, this is my third pair of earbuds. Okay, so I'm sorry that I've had a heck of a time joining. I guess I'm still here in the US with plans to be in Barichara as soon as possible. I'm going to the reason I'm here is to listen to everybody else mostly. I don't have anything to contribute just yet because I haven't started any real work on the ground, but I will be doing that in earnest on Las Albercas when I get there. So anyway, that's my check-in. I don't know who to pass it to. I'm probably the last guy here.
I think I'm the only one that hasn't gone yet, and I'll keep it really brief because you're going to hear from me. I think enough. I am originally from Conifer, Colorado, the Front Range, so I'm a Colorado mountain guy myself. I spent a bit of time in California farming and ranching too, so I feel a strong connection to Paonia. And I am just all around. I'm in Denver, Colorado right now is where I'm at. And I may be spending some more time in Paonia. We'll see how things shake out. And as far as how I'm feeling, I feel like I paddled into a wave and the wave got way bigger. And I didn't really expect it to get so big so fast, but here we are just trying to hold together and keep standing. We may go down, but we'll get back up. So that's sort of how I'm feeling right now. Very excited to see you all. And I want to just start off by saying I'm going to talk for about 5 to 10 minutes to just sort of bring us together, give you all an idea of the overall picture of what's happening, and then I'll share a little bit about the agenda for today, and then how that fits into the next 3 sessions. So first off, welcome to everyone in the Southern Rockies. This is awesome. We have Paonia and Carbondale really well represented, and we also have Santa Fe and the very southern portion of the Southern Rockies pretty well represented. Bennett is there as well. He's in Taos, and Robin. So I feel some potential building that the Southern Rockies really want to speak. So that's so exciting. And I know it's been mentioned already before, but I want to bring in the fact that the meeting we had with the bioregional activators that started a couple hours ago at 8 a.m. Mountain was just so exciting. We have the Toronto bioregion that's in the process of being activated, and Penny and Joe are going to go visit there. And so we have the North American continent is really speaking as well. It's really exciting. And Joe explained how, the waters of North America from the Great Lakes, and there's representation in New York, and then also the driftless area in Wisconsin. There's some conversations that are growing there. All the stuff that's happening in the Southern Rockies and the various headwaters of the Colorado River, and how that flows down into the Baja, the Sea of Cortez, sorry. And so we have this line of connection that has to do with water, which is just so interesting and exciting. So I wanted to share that here. As far as what we are going to do here today, this is a little bit experimental. We are learning. We're in the process of learning how we support bioregions. This is a new thing, this network of bioregions coming together to form a learning ecosystem. And so the things that are going to be on my mind are, as we listen to, excuse me, the 2 bioregions today, I'll be thinking, how can we create a space where we can hear their stories, where we can share inspiration, where we can explore challenges, voice needs, and then how can this be a place where different bioregions really connect deeply, and where we can find regional allies and things like that. So some of the inquiries that I'm sitting with, and I invite you all to sort of explore those and keep those in the back of your mind as well as we move forward. I think that just by coming together, this is going to be a really rich session, even though it's going to be a little bit more open and experimental today. And then one other thing that I wanted to bring in that I think that we can provide a lot of value to you all here is this idea of fire keepers. And I have a couple different examples. So when Joe hosted the Refi Barichara event, there was a small group of women that started a fire at the beginning of the event that sort of symbolized this desire to give voice to the landscape, and was somewhere where that intention was held continuously, and anybody could go there at any time. And in the Earth Regenerators, for about 3 years now, we've had this space called campfires that served a similar role, where as we went out into our local communities and carried these conversations, sometimes it can be a little bit deflating. Things aren't received quite like we expect, but we have a space we can always go back to in campfires, where the fire keepers are keeping those embers of the world that we aspire to burning. And so how can we be a space here where you all can come for inspiration and to sort of recharge your inspiration batteries? So that's another thing that I'm sort of considering as we move forward. And so to organize all of that, or to provide some purpose for us to organize around in those efforts, we are so lucky to have a couple workshops coming up on the ground. We've got a workshop in Carbondale on the 10th, next Saturday, December 10th. And then the next day on Sunday in Paonia. And we have 3 virtual sessions that I'll host, that I hope that we can really use to set the table for those workshops. So we've got today, and then we've got this Saturday, the 3rd, and then we've got next Wednesday, the 7th, all going to be at 10 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. to 11:30 Mountain. And to sort of bring us together into a shared intention there, I want us to also inquire, what do we want to achieve in those workshops? And what can we explore today that we can then build upon on Saturday and then next Wednesday? And so I'm going to spend a couple days reflecting on this session and what has arisen to sort of design an agenda for Saturday. And I want to welcome any input from all y'all. I'm a big believer in collective intelligence being smarter than individual intelligence. So I definitely would love to hear input. And so that brings me to the agenda for today. I want to provide an opportunity for both bioregions to do a little storytelling, to share with us what's going on so they can be seen and also begin to see each other. I think that's an interesting opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. You guys are neighbors. I think that there's lots of opportunities to swap resources. One of those being inspiration. And also, so I'm going to invite Marissa to speak. She's going to share a little bit about what's emerging, and Lisa said that she would share. Rita, if there's something you want to share as well, there'll be space for that. And so that's going to be like I would think the most important part of this. And then after that, we'll enter into a little bit more of an improvisational space where we can discuss maybe in breakout rooms, maybe as a whole group together, what we're sensing, opportunities for support that we can offer, and we'll see where else the conversation goes. And so I'm going to talk just a little bit more. I'm drawing some inspiration from Joe in his presentation that he gave in both Carbondale and Paonia, where he sort of set the context. He told the story of collapse and regeneration, and then he briefly explored the anchoring themes of pro-social and common land. And I'm not going to do that every time, but I figured since this is our first time together, I wanted to just bring us back together into that context briefly. So first, collapse and regeneration, and I'm going to read this off. It'll take probably a couple minutes. So first off, we are together in the sober recognition that we are in a time of collapsing planetary systems. One need look no further than the Stockholm Resilience Center's planetary boundaries framework. And I'm not going to go into greater detail here on collapse, but I wanted to surface it and name that, it is collapsing systems that make way for the new. And I think that we all feel that, and that's why we're here. We're inspired by the vision of a world adapting to become bioregional, where each bioregion is learning to care for its landscapes and its people, because that's what we have agency over, because that's the organizing principle that enables humans to become planetary stewards, further enabled by a network of bioregions supporting each other and creating a collective learning ecosystem. That's what we're trying to figure out how to do here. And so with that, I'll talk just a moment about pro-social in its essence. Pro-social is an orientation towards caring and improving the welfare of others and society as a whole. It's also a flexible framework and an ecology of practices that give rise to the ability to form effective groups. And it's deeply rooted in evolutionary science. With regular practice, it's possible to collectively grow into wise managers of our local and global cultural evolution. And so broadly speaking, it has a lot to do with cultivating a deep awareness of our own personal thoughts, emotions, and psychology, as well as cultivating a depth and authenticity in our relationships, friendships, and the quality of our cultural agreements. And then lastly, I want to talk for just a moment about common land. So the model for integrated landscape management and landscape partnerships. Now that starts with coming together around shared intentions, shared vision for the community and for the landscape. And then this initial phase starts with forming a core team, but simultaneously it's about continuing to learn to see the land and its many functions as living and something that we can collectively come into deep relationship with, and seeing that together. That's a really important part of all of this. And so as we do that, we form new shared identities, and those open the door to deep shared purpose, profound collaboration, and various forms of community reconciliation. And something that I also would like to briefly point out is that Common Land is working on this thing called spaces of belonging, where they're really highlighting that this is really about rediscovering a new form of home. So this is deep stuff, and it really can draw people in and draw people together. And so the remaining phases of the model guide communities through collective learning, forming visions and plans, prototyping, implementing, scaling, and continued adaptation. So it's also about a common language and framework, which enables us to share lessons together, connect more deeply, and to interact with something we're all very interested in, a greater diversity of funding opportunities. So that's it. That's the context that I wanted to set. Hopefully we're feeling like we're sort of coherent together, or Jen would like me to post the overview. Absolutely. Yep, I can do that. And with that, I would love to pass it to the bioregions so we can hear from them. Marissa, I'm curious if you'd like to take it first.
Sure, thank you. And you said like 5 to 10 minutes.
I mean, whatever you need, really.
Okay.
Yeah, we're here for you.
All right, I tried to organize my thoughts so I'm not rambling, and I'd like to have time for other folks from our group to chime in. And I wanted to start just by sharing this image that I've had since Evelina mentioned this idea, as we're like thinking about the scale of our bioregion, like which tributaries, which aspects of the watershed can we connect with walking or biking. So I've this image of like biking up to the top of McClure Pass to this aspen grove where I harvested OSHA a few weeks ago, and we have like our meeting with the folks from the Roaring Fork Valley up there. I just liked that in terms of how we're connecting with each other. I've never done that. I know people have done it. It would be hard, but it's doable. Yeah, well, thank you. So we, following Joe's workshop on about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, we had a follow-up call last weekend, which folks seem to get a lot out of. And now we're building towards this next workshop on December 11th. Like a morning workshop doing some deeper work around relationship and trust building and developing that shared vision for our kind of landscape partnership and plan. And Joe asked me to share Benji asked me to share kind of what's coming up, where do we need support? And I've talked to Benji about a lot of this already, but so I think where we need support is bringing somewhat abstract concepts to life on the ground with like just the right amount of support, so we don't all need to do the pro-social facilitator training, and we're not making things up when there's a lot of good frameworks and structures for us to work with already. So kind of what does that look like? And for example, with the pro-social, we do have a good amount of interest in our group. 2 or 3 people want to take that facilitator training in January. Scott's already trained in it, and we are appreciating the support from y'all to integrate pro-social into our ongoing work for those who can't make that big commitment to do the facilitator training. I'm thinking I could do the facilitator training if I don't have a job in January, because it looks like a big commitment. Common land, that model as well, like how do we move toward a landscape partnership and plan? And I'm grateful that we'll be able to focus on that in our session on the 11th. And I just wanted to share something that's been really inspiring to me since Joe's visit, as a vision Joe shared as we were looking at our watershed from a high vantage point. And someone asked where we should think about focusing, and like how he could imagine agriculture evolving in our region. And he shared a vision of, reconnecting the wildlife corridors and bringing back the beavers and the wetlands. We also talked about biodynamic farming, but that vision of like the spring, riparian, wildlife corridor restoration has been really moving me a lot, and others. Another one of those concepts that feels a little abstract to me, at least, and we're trying to figure out how to ground it here, is the syntropic agroforestry. What does it look like in our climate? Because it, as far as I know, isn't really being practiced in that way, at least described as or named as such in our climate. And I'm interested in working with other folks in Colorado on the Front Range and the Western Slopes, maybe the folks downstream from us too in New Mexico who are interested in adapting that model to more of a dryland, high altitude context. So like, can we work with the folks from Brazil and the, as you mentioned, Benji, the dryland agroforestry group farm, I forget exactly what they are, on the Front Range, and think about, yeah, how do we tweak this model to our climate? And then we experiment and we share notes about what's working and which plants people are using and what kind of adaptations people are making. So those are some of the areas where I think we are needing support, and there's a few more specific things I'll mention. I also wanted to present like an idea for a Mountain West regional gathering in person, maybe next fall, with the spirit of a bioregional learning center, so we can connect across bioregions in person, build those relationships. That is like the campfire I think you're talking about, Benji, like bringing people back together who share the inspiration. So even if we're out in our communities and it feels isolating, we can come together in person, is what I've been hearing from folks, that piece is really valuable and nourishing. That maybe we could host something here, and also I think some smaller seasonal gatherings at rotating locations would be good too. We've been talking about just visiting different land and projects within our bioregion on a monthly or quarterly basis, so folks can get a taste of the work that people are doing on the ground on their own projects. Yeah, something I've been seeing on from a national lens with my work with Transition US and also the New Economy Coalition. Bruce, I'm not sure if this totally resonates with you, but I want to include the Permaculture Institute of North America in this category too. All these groups are working on bioregional organizing. They're national organizations that are shifting towards bioregional organizing because they see that that's what's really needed. But there's a big gap in the Mountain West. There's not a lot of organizing happening in the Mountain West. There's a lot on the coast, there's stuff in the Midwest, but our bioregion is lacking. So I think there's a lot of value in us connecting across bioregions within this ecosystem. And we here in Paonia some of us have a nonprofit community land trust vessel, the Fertile Edge Community Land Trust, that can also help with some of those connections. Sorry, set my notes down on my mute button. Another question we want to talk about on the 11th is scale. Paonia is just a city, a community. It's got its own cultural identity, but it's part of the North Fork Valley region and the North Fork of the Gunnison River. However, we have folks already we're working with, like Evelina and others, on the Smith Fork of the Gunnison, and yet serving or organizing as the whole Gunnison River basin feels like a bit of a stretch from where we are right now. So thinking how we should kind of name and organize. And yeah, I really liked Evelina's comment about like, let's start with the tributaries on our side and move towards the whole Gunnison River basin and think about what's really accessible to us. And then keeping in mind that, yeah, we do have a cultural identity and we have a sense of community, and there's a lot of organizing happening already within that community, but it doesn't necessarily extend as readily throughout the whole river basin. Another thing I wanted to name, this is some work that my partner Jeremiah is a big part of this as well. I've been thinking about, it's kind of like an informal power analysis. This is work we speak about in transition as being important, mapping systems of power and how they play out and impact the work that you want to do, and either support or obstruct your agenda from moving forward. But in simple terms, we're looking at kind of what structures already exist around watersheds, And we've been looking at the Gunnison River Basin Roundtable we found is an existing government and funding entity that's part of the Colorado Water Plan. And we can get like $100,000 to do a spring restoration project here. My partner works for the town water system with this regenerative agenda. So we can access those kinds of funds, but that's available to other communities as well. And if you're not on the Gunnison River Basin Roundtable, you probably have your own corresponding one if you're in Colorado. And there's money there waiting to be distributed. Similarly, looking at like influencing our town water committee and getting more of our folks in that group because they have influence over the water systems. And working on getting funding for a climate adaptation plan as well. Just like looking at the different, I think refi is great. And I'm more comfortable working in like the realm of grants because I have a nonprofit background. So let's like bring all the resources that are available. And right now there's a lot of federal money for this kind of stuff. So now's the time to get it. We're also doing some mapping. Jeremiah and Benji worked on like a survey of folks in our bioregion to share the projects that they're working on and kind of how they want to be interacting with this group. So we've been getting some good responses to that and are following up kind of with one-on-ones with people as much as we have capacity for. Again, that capacity is a big piece. Like I feel like I could have one-on-ones every day until you guys get here on the 11th, but I only have time to do a few of them. And those one-on-ones are really important just in organizing in general. A lot of juiciness comes in and just understanding where people are at and what motivates them and why they're showing up and how all comes out of the one-on-ones. And that's a good segue into my last point here, which is just feeling into starting a core team and how to do that so that we have a permeable membrane. It's an inclusive space. It doesn't feel exclusive, but yet there's a lot of intention around who's in the core team and why, and making sure folks who are there have the ability, kind of the skill sets and the personality to make things happen and work well with other people and aren't being attracted to the core for the wrong reasons, which just happens in open, inclusive organizing spaces. I've seen it over and over again. So trying to balance those things, the spirit of open inclusivity with the need for a lot of intention around who is in leadership. And so I'm interested in learning more about like, how do we do that distribution of like labor and benefits? I forget exactly how it's described in the pro-social framework, but how do we implement that? And how do we cultivate a whole core team that can hold strong boundaries around itself so it doesn't fall on kind of one person to be moderating other people's behavior, if you get what I'm saying. Like, how do we self-regulate as a group and make sure that responsibility is shared? Because that is often the downfall of non-hierarchical groups. All right, thank you. That is what I have to share. And Scott's been like a big part of this, super helpful to me. Evelina, Bruce, Donna, Lynn, if anyone has any key, Elizabeth, if you have any key insights you want to share, go ahead, Bruce. You're muted, my friend.
No insight, just I like your presentation. I'm a former cartoonist, and so I think in pictures. I made a movie of our particular watershed, and I can put the link in the chat, because I wanted to visualize the whole thing from top to bottom. And I kind of think that's important. It goes along with the idea of scale, I think, to some extent. It shows where we're connected to the rest of the water system. By the way, the 150 watersheds figure came from, I think, the draft report of the new water plan for Colorado. I'll have to look that up, but I think that's where the number came from. And those are all groups that are competing for funding from the state and from the federal government.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Is there anybody else from the North Fork tributary or Ewelina and Crawford that would like to share? And if not, I would.
This is Lynn. Sorry, Benji.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I'm late at getting back and forth the way I'm having to do this. I really enjoyed what you had to say, Bruce, about the different watersheds, and also Marissa looking at continuous habitat. That's been a work I've been doing for many years in different areas of the country. And we have so many different watersheds, and within that, incredible diversity of microclimates. And so when thinking about working within those watersheds and any restoration work and planting, it's so important in my mind to really spend time in each one of those watersheds and see what is there, what grows there, who visits that area, what are they using. And so I would be really interested in creating or working with a group that is interested in doing that when weather permits, maybe later in the year, and just mapping out what we see as important in those watersheds, and then take that information and make it available to people who live in those watersheds, because many of the plants are not appropriate or don't do well in some areas versus others, and many animals use them differently. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. And if there's no one else that would like to share from the Gunnison River watershed, I want to open up a few minutes, maybe a couple comments from the rest of the group, either people from Carbondale or the virtual community here to respond to what they've seen, what they've heard, what's coming up for them before we hear from Lisa or Rita. Yeah, Robin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure can, yeah.
Oh, good, okay. There's a slight hesitation with my computer, so I apologize, but I'm sort of a outside onlooker with a great interest in Paonia and also regenerative agriculture. And I'm just as an outside person looking in, I've looked at the landscape, and I also looked at common land, and what I notice is that where it's irrigated, it's real green and lush. But there's places like Marta brought up the adobes, what they call the adobes, and some other regions right around Paonia that aren't irrigated that I understand used to be grassland. And it seems like in common land, they take very degraded lands and they regenerate them. And I think that that would be an interesting place to look at, is the adobes and the land that's around the irrigated land. And I think there would be a great interest in local people to have improvements done on their land. And so if it's, undergoing desertification. And so I was thinking it might be interesting on the map to look and see connections there between those desertification portions, and see if like the possibility of doing rotational grazing on those places to help bring the grasses back. And so I thought that might be an interesting place to look at for the group.
Yeah, that's great. And I've heard that intention coming up over and over from amongst people in Paonia. So just want to surface that seems to be a shared intention as well. So Meaty, love to hear from you.
Thanks. Wow, I've so enjoyed hearing from you, Marissa, and hearing from others too. It really grounds me. I wanted to offer a resource. I loved what Lynn was speaking to around the kind of the microclimate and really getting into the local aspect of it. But I also wanted to mention a resource in case you haven't accessed it, which is a group called, a nonprofit called AmericanResiliency.org, which is started by a woman called Emily Scherning, who is just about the best person I know for making climate sensible to ordinary humans like me. And she's actually produced a report for Colorado in 2050, what climate change can you expect? So it's at kind of statewide level, but regional level. And I know that Emily would be really open to talking if you wanted to gather a group to have an online session. She really is compelling as a speaker because she so knows her science, but she's actually steeped in climate education and how to make it accessible, and even make a game in a very real sense of engaging people in it. So I'll put those links in the chat. And just the other comment I wanted to make, listening to you talk about pro-social, and this is from now several years, about 3 years experience in earth regenerators, is that I think from my perspective, it's really important to see pro-social as a way of life, actually. We need to get the facilitator training, but it's not just a training technology. It's a way of being and interacting together. So while there may be many people, saying, oh, I don't have the time for facilitator training, if you don't have the time to learn to embody what pro-social stands for in terms of your day-to-day relationships with people, then life will be much more difficult as you seek to activate your bioregion. It really is about learning as a community what it means to be pro-social. And that's out of several years in earth regenerators and discovering how valuable the basic principles and the core design principles that are spoken to are as a way of engineering and guiding our lights when we get into difficulties. Which are the core principles that are being at risk here? Yeah, I've said enough. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Midi. Really important points. I totally agree. And unless there's anybody else who would like to share, I'd like to take just a moment here to reflect a little bit on what I've heard. And forgive me, I can't see my notes all that well. I don't know if you could tell I'm like right in the sun. I didn't really plan this all that well with the position of the celestial bodies around here, but I think I can see that we're talking about bringing abstract concepts into reality. So specifically pro-social and common land. What does the training look like? What are the opportunities there? And then further exploring the common land framework, making that feel more real. I think that starts with bringing clarity to how the core team forms, how we move forward with that developmental process in a way that's pro-social. And then I'm also hearing an early emerging vision, shared vision for the landscape. Wildlife corridors was brought up a couple of times, biodynamic farming. Marissa's getting a lot of inspiration from spring riparian wildlife restoration. And then syntropic agroforestry has come up. I think there's an awesome opportunity to collaborate with people throughout the Southern Rockies and create some alliances there. And then rotational grazing. And loving the ideas around regional gatherings, a couple different kinds that were mentioned. I think that there's a really interesting opportunity for Paonia and Carbondale to sort of connect on that and to learn to collaborate across McClure Pass, organize around that particular effort. So with that, I want to thank everybody from Paonia for sharing. This has been great. And I don't know if Marissa, something you want to share?
One
Please.
really quick response before we move on. I was just seeing Claire's note about, making sure to sit with the story of place, slow down and observe. And yeah, I talked to Benji about this a little bit as well. Observation is important for sure. And part of, I think, what we want to do is make visible kind of the relationships and trust that already exist here, the work that has already been done. A lot of people have been observing and interacting with different parts of the landscape for a long time, and working together in different ways for a long time. And I think we're kind of seeing each other in a new way, perhaps. And maybe that's the main thing that I should have said with my whole remarks. But making visible what already exists rather than, yes, charging in with an agenda without paying attention to the land and the people and the relationships. It's a really, we have to be really careful how we operate here because it's a very polarized politically place. We're kind of like the progressive oases in Lauren Boebert's district, Western rural Colorado. I mean, Carbondale as well. There are other, but in Delta County. So we have to be really careful and strategic about how we move forward. We're definitely not just gonna plow through without being intentional. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That's such an important point to bring up. And I think that this is a rich opportunity for us to explore in the workshop together, some of these mapping processes, social system mapping. I'll be really interested to hear what Joe has to say about that, some of the experience that he's had there. Because yes, revealing what already exists is so important. Yeah, Claire, I think I saw your hand go up and down. Is there something you want to share?
Well, just a quick response to saying, I think one of the things is that there are many people who have been so left out of the conversations that that there needs to be the opportunity, so absolutely making visible. But even when the observing's been happening, sometimes the conversations, and I don't think you're referring to this, Marissa, but I just wanted to name it, was that sometimes it's the groups of people who have been seeing each other, but there are people that have been left out and unseen. And like, how do we make sure that the conversation is like, we're thinking about the process of observing and the story of place, so that those things that we have become habitually blind to are included. So it was just, yeah.
Yep, I see that was well received. Yeah, thank you, Claire. And so with that, we've got about a half hour to hear from Carbondale and see where else the conversation wants to go. So Lisa, Rita, either of you want to share a little bit about what's been emerging?
Sure, I can go ahead and share. And I like that comment by Marissa about including people in this area. There's some farms that already exist and have been here for a while and pretty much operating on their own, and finding the best way to communicate with them and invite them to be a part of what we're doing. And so I sent out an email last night for the workshop on the 10th. And I sent the email to some of those organizations to invite them to come and be part of the whole process. I think also maybe going out to those places and saying, hi, this is who I am. And, you know, we're looking at creating a bioregion here, and giving them some information about it, kind of an educational piece so that they understand. So that is an interesting piece. And I like the idea that Marissa shared about having meetings like community meetings, but rotating the location around, and even working with Paonia closely as another bioregion. I like the idea of meeting on the top of McClure Pass. I'm not sure about biking up there, but driving would be okay. And so, because we are very close, we're not real far away. So that would be really nice to be able to do that. So as far as meeting and weaving new relationships, I have been doing that some. I met with a woman over the weekend and we talked about it, and she said, I'd like to have a bioregion in my area. And she's just west of Glenwood Springs in Canyon Creek. And she talked about some of the issues going on in that area. I'm meeting somebody this afternoon who's interested in environmental issues, and I'm going to sit down and tell her about it and invite her on the 10th to come to the presentation. And then just, you know, the email that I sent out, the invitation to people to come to the event on the 10th. And Rita and I sat down and created a list of people and organizations to invite. And because when we first had our meeting, you know, we came to the Paonia meetings, Rita and I, and then Rita said, well, can you come to Carbondale? So it was kind of a last minute thing. Although we had a nice turnout, we had 15 people there. That was good. And then we've had a follow-up meeting since then, and we had a small group come, and we were just targeting that group of people that came to the first meeting. And so now we're reaching out a little bit further to some more people and some of the farms and places like that. Let's see. So we talked at that last meeting that we had, that was a follow-up to Joe's presentation. We talked about projects that we could take on. One lady mentioned the drinking water in this area, and there's some lower income families and people here that are just getting the plastic water bottles, you know, and drinking, that's their drinking water. And to help them find some other way of having clean, safe drinking water instead of using the plastic, and working with that group. And then we talked about reaching out to some of these other organizations and more people in the area, but organizations like the organic farms and people that are doing some environmental work, and bringing them into the picture, inviting them to come along and having that be like a project that we can focus on. Let's see. So I think, you know, for me, a big part of it is connecting with people, inviting them, sharing about what we're doing, inviting them to be a part of what we're doing, to create that community involvement, so that everybody has this kind of feeling of oneness, like we're all working together in the community. And of course, Rita and I, we've been meeting a lot, talking about different aspects of bringing this work together and involving different people. So I feel like the energy is building here. There is some inspiration. I know I'm really inspired to really work on creating something. It's really exciting to me. I know that a couple of people have mentioned in this area that they have tried to create some community or build community in the past, and it didn't work. So there's a little bit of that, a little bit of some negativity just from the past, things that people have tried. But I really think that this is a really different way of doing that, of bringing people together. I think pro-social is a really good way of working with people. I think that's so important. I'd love to take the facilitator training if I can. And let's see, what else did I write down here? I made some notes. So I feel like we're kind of getting started with bringing more people in to be on board with us. And And I think maybe just some help with, I know Benji, you helped me that one time with the kind of the structure, the agenda of that meeting that we had. So that's a possibility of, you know, some help that we could use. Let's see. So we need to, what we're looking at is figuring out who our core team is. And the people here haven't had that presentation on common land or landscapes yet. So bringing that into the picture also. So yeah, I think that's it. Rita, anything that you want to add?
Nicely reported, Lisa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a co-founder of what is now called the Center for Human Flourishing. We originally had a name, Davi Nakent, was given to us by a Ute elder, meaning always light, but people always said, well, who's Davy? So from the work of Dr. Elliot Dasher, who wrote a book on integral health, The Path to Human Flourishing, we have adopted the Center for Human Flourishing as the official name of the organization, and we're at 3rd Street in Carbondale. And Lisa delightfully is on our board. And a year ago, a little over a year ago, Lisa planned a 6-week program in regenerative living, and we put that out to the community. And one person came. So we're looking to bring in this new energy that has come with Joe's work and with all of you who are involved to catalyze the potential here in the Valley. And going, I think kind of globally, I look at the top of the Valley and say, who are the organizations that are already involved in participating and taking care of the land and taking care of how the people use the land. And so we have an amazing list of organizations, and are reaching out to them to see if there's a spark of, oh yeah, I can step out of just what I'm doing here and look at the big picture of the Roaring Fork watershed. And that is really the call out that we're trying to put to people. And I'm so thrilled that Marissa and the folks in Paonia have been able to bring their community into this. And I feel like we've got our running shoes on here and we're trying to catch up, but it will all happen with the grace of the universe. And if we, I think that winter months will be helpful to go in slow and steady and really look around, look at the land, look at the people, and just continue a steady call out to see what wants to happen here. So that's me.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Rita. I really love the idea of embodying, indeed, yeah, Dan, totally, of embodying slowness during the winter months, so that we can maybe more appropriately use those running shoes in the spring once things are drying out after mud season. I also want to just briefly mention something that came up in the Bioregional Activators call earlier this morning, and that is we discussed creating a video, like an introductory video that sort of tells this story. It's kind of an overview that can be both sent to bioregions that are interested in maybe inviting Joe and Penny out to do their presentations and workshops, but it could also be sent to people like the environmental organizations, the farmers ranchers that were mentioned that are already in place, to sort of give them an idea of what this is all about. And I also wanted to name, because I heard that there was a little bit of a history around trying to form community that's left some people a little discouraged. And I think that there is a lot of power in seeing that this is a planetary network, that we're coming together and supporting each other. I think that's a fundamentally different way of organizing, and rooted in the landscape. And so I'm really inspired and encouraged with the potential that can, and the inspiration that can hold and carry. So that's all I had to say. And Dan, love to hear from you.
Can you hear me okay? I'm
Sure
not sure
can.
about this mic. Oh, thanks. Okay, so just a real short comment about your thing about making video and telling a short story or a story or an introductory story or some kind of way that you can record something that, you know, anybody can watch at any time and get an introduction to a given place. I know there was a thing that we touched on somewhere in one of the learning journeys back a ways. Pecha Kucha, I don't know if anybody did any of that. I didn't make one. Joe made one, and then he offered it around and let everybody take their shot at it if they wanted. And a couple of folks made some really nice ones. It's just real short. I think it's 20 seconds long or a minute and 20 or something. But it's a challenge to the author to summarize a story, so to speak. And that might be one of the, if you're struggling with making a video for such an introduction to your place, you know, I'm going to take a shot at that later. I think if I think that the Las Albercas story has already been, you know, in narration for a while, so it's probably not necessary. But I just wanted to suggest that to anyone, you know, for some of these subsets of the larger bioregion that we're talking about here, Carbondale, Paonia, et cetera, and even smaller subregions within those bioregions. If you think that that might be something worth doing, it might be a good idea to go back and look that up. Okay, I'm gonna quit talking. Thanks.
That's great, Dan. Yeah, thank you. And there are so many bioregions now. What is it, Penny? 8 bioregions that we're in conversation with, a lot of them in early stages of development. So there's going to be a lot of lessons that we can sort of, and processes that we can step through together, which I think is going to be so informative. And I'm going to try, Penny and Joe and others are really going to try to create a learning ecosystem where we can step through those processes together and share lessons and insights. And I feel like there's just so much power in that. So really excited and curious if there's anybody else that would like to bring something in, would like to respond to what's happening in Carbondale, maybe add to it. Dan, got your hand up again?
Only because nobody reacted right away. I want to say, now that I have a chance, I'm talking, you know, I'm so just delighted to be here and to hear all of this. You know, I'm not able to contribute to these specific, you know, bioregion discussions, and I'm aware I've been trying to track and pay attention to what is going on there in Colorado. Man, you guys, this is just so wonderful. I talk about this to everyone I meet on the street, anybody, just casual conversations, you know, and, you know, I'm hoping that it generates, it also helps clarify for me, you know, what our larger story is and to clarify for me, you know, the path that I myself am on, which I don't see it as my own, you know, lonely path. You know, this is when we're all doing this, and we need to understand. And then one other thing, 2 other things, Benji, you know, I really applaud you for having the courage to open a meeting without a real clear agenda, to just say, okay, we're figuring this out as we go. And I know that you're not the first one to do that, but you are a, you know, trailblazer. So along with a few others, and you know, I have conducted many meetings in my career, and you know, with large and small groups, and I've always made it, you know, a axiom to be prepared with an agenda. So, and to be unprepared is just too scary. But you know, to trust that we're all going to figure it out as we go, knowing that we all have, you know, the same sort of intention, is good enough, and that we'll find our way. And there's just such a beauty in that. Okay, that's really all I have. Thank you again. I've been capturing notes from this discussion to help me find my specific path to, you know, developing Las Albercas for the vision that we've already been described in other meetings, and to follow that along and to be the, whatever you want to call it, project manager, I suppose, to making it happen, you know, to be making it and bringing it into reality. So thank you all for all your comments, because you're really helping me to make this more cohesive and you know, articulate. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Dan. For those of you who are just getting to know Dan, he's always good for some inspiration. Really appreciate that about you. And yeah, thank you. I've really been learning from Joe, trying to strike this balance between structure and openness for improvisation. These have to be such adaptive spaces. And so, yeah, just learning as we go. Meaty, and then RJ, and then that might bring us a time where we could then go around the room and do one word closing thought. So Meaty.
Well, I really put my hand up to say that anyone who's just listened to the last 2 or 3 minutes of Dan speaking will know that he was telling an outrageous lie, that he has no contribution to make. This man has made so much contribution in the field of earth regenerators, and he happens to be one of the most modest people I know. So it's a wonderful opportunity to say, Dan, you're a liar, and I love you. And the other thing I just want to say in passing is there's a feeling I get in this Zoom room, and I've been wondering what it's about, and I think it's Colorado speaking. There is a quality in the people that are here that is speaking, and I think the land is speaking through you. And I just thank you so much for the opportunity to meet you here. Thank you.
RJ.
Yes, just to say thanks for the sentiments, Dan and Mitty. And I just wanted to mention, I'm really excited just listening to hear what's going on in Colorado and that part of the West. It's an area I don't know well, but what I know of it relates a lot to some of the things that I think about. And just to say, here on the East Coast, not on the coast, but on the inland portions, when you go in 100, 150 miles, you get into some pretty rugged territory, even though the mountains are not snow-covered peaks. And that whole Appalachian chain and the whole area in there, which is quite a sizable area, has a lot of things going on that are bioregional or the essence of bioregional, but haven't been talked about much that way. And I think as we go into this further, I know I've heard New York, I know the Hudson Valley really well. I think we're going to find a lot more possibilities here of similar moving forward here. Now, I won't even say the East Coast, it's the inland from the East Coast in the areas that a lot of times have been neglected, but there's all sorts of things happening. So that I'm excited about as well. And I think we will have stories to share and things to learn from each other. Sometimes we're a little, because it's been colonized for so long, sometimes we're a little settled in our ways, but when you go in a little bit deeper, you find out all the same conversations are going on in small places and need to be expanded. So that's my 2 cents, and thanks. This is a really good, energetic day, as it usually is when Benji's there and some of the people are there. It's pretty exciting to see, and welcome to everybody new here. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, RJ, and for the kind words. And Rita, love to hear from you, and then we'll jump into a closing.
What has just come into my heart is the knowing that the Northern Ute, the Ute bands were removed from these territories. And there is a very small, area, three tribal areas that they've lived on in the state, but the Northern Utes, the Nooch from this area were moved out into Utah. So bringing those folks into the conversation, bringing those folks who still maybe have memories or stories of the land has just come to me very, very strongly. And I just wanted to bring that into the basket here.
Yes, thank you very much. We've in this virtual group, when we've done bioregional mapping, it's come up over and over, the need to consider the bioregional dialogue that already exists, and that's the indigenous groups that have been so marginalized. So thank you for bringing that in. That's really important. Absolutely. And so with that, I'd just like to say that I'm going to post this recording. Thank you all so much. This has been amazing. I'm going to post this recording. I'm going to post a few thoughts, and I'm going to begin to build like Dan said, a very light agenda for Saturday. We'll have this meeting again at 10 a.m. Mountain to 11 a.m. I'm going to invite also the Colorado Bioregions Telegram group, which will include some people in the Front Range. Maybe there'll be some opportunities for some more alliances to be woven for, the two bioregions that are in attendance today to see some of the people on the other side of the Rockies. And then we'll also invite the Bioregional Activators Telegram group, which might include some people who are working on tooling, crypto, and we'll see how that conversation goes. And so I'll be posting the recording and reflections to the in the Bioregional Catalyst group in Earth Regenerators, and I'll send a link to Marissa, Lisa, and Rita to be then shared with their communities. And with that, I'd love to go around the room really briefly, one word, couple words, just to share how people are feeling, see how people are feeling. And is anybody ready to kick that one off? And then we'll depart. Yeah, Bruce, thank you.
Just connections, that's all.
Elizabeth, I saw your hand too, and then if you could just pass it along, it'd be great. I see you're pointing. Is it in the chat?
Oh, it's in the chat.
I don't see it actually. Marissa, do you mind going from here and then passing along? She's gonna write it on a piece of paper. We'll look at her screen.
All right. Let the land sing through you. That's a taste of the song I put in the chat, so check it out. Lisa, over to you.
Hi. Well, I am feeling very hopeful and inspired and excited for what is coming up, what we're able to create. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for all your words of wisdom, and Marissa, to being in the next bioregion, to be able to work with you, work with your group. Thank you so much.
Meaty, you want to take it from here and then pass it along?
I'm feeling so moved. This is so beautiful. And thanks to everyone. Bennett, I'm going to pass to you.
Yeah, feeling good about, our prospects down here, given the momentum, only a couple 100 miles to the north. It's just really good to, be a fly on the wall in here and see what's brewing up there, and wishing that I could make it up for y'all's workshop. It probably isn't going to happen. So I'll just continue to stay posted via the internet, and yeah, be sending you good vibes and the best of luck from down south. Let's go, Claire.
Thank you. Yeah, feeling very energized, and just it's fabulous to meet all of you. And this is an amazing space. And also, I think there's a level of urgency that I'm feeling as well. And yeah, like Bio Kamalafe says, times are urgent, we must slow down. I'll pass to Megan.
Thank you, Claire. Yes, I'm feeling inspired by the evolution. It's just so exciting to see that happening. And I'll pass to Gail.
Megan, thank you. Putting on my running shoes. And I'll pass to Dan. Thanks for
Gail.
being here.
Yeah, Gail, it's so lovely to see you. Yeah, I have to say real quick, I've been just so drained by logistical difficulties and my entrenchments, and the folks I'm trying to separate from here in the US who are willfully ignorant. But being here today, I'm just so recharged by all of this. Thank you all again. Scott Brown, you want to take it?
Sure, thanks. just so grateful for the support. I mean, there's just amazing synchronicity and synergy. And Marissa, I just have to say, I so appreciated your share, your leadership. I'll pass it to Donna.
I feel, I guess it's kind of a spontaneous, open, and curiosity. I will pass it to, let's see, Lynn again.
All right. Okay, sorry. Psychically rejuvenated, thanks to all of you and everything I've heard this morning. And thank you, Marissa, for keeping the momentum going. I will pass it to Rita.
Trembling with anticipation.
How about you, RJ?
Yes, all these energies of connection and good. I'll pass it to Eric.
Thank you. Uncompromising purpose. I think now is the most important time in my life, in this life, and I suspect for most of us, to be unwavering in our intentions, in our abilities, and in love in general. I'll pass it to, oh, Elizabeth, you're unmuted. You go, girl.
Thank you. I discovered how to unmute. I mean, I've been on Zoom calls forever, but somehow I couldn't get it. Yeah, I feel like we're all different islands of resonance and we're all connecting together. And my heart is literally beating faster when I get on these calls and when I get when I talk about regenerative stuff. So thank you. It's like a big new family for Thanksgiving. Thank you.
No, you're muted, Benji.
Thanks. Has everybody had a chance to go? I feel like we're missing someone, but I don't remember.
Gail?
I think we heard from Gail.
Did Robin go?
Robin.
I'm feeling eager and earnest. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. And we just barely went over, so thank you all so much. My closing feeling is coming into alignment. I feel like we're really syncing up. So I want to thank you all for that. And thank you all for coming. We'll do this again on Saturday if you'd like to join. Feedback is welcome. Send me a message. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Toodles.